here we go again, 2024. Very excited to be here and coming off a successful year last year. We just finished our 4.5 days, I guess, of pre-season so far. We're heading out for some team building for the next couple of sessions. So, yeah, we graduated 7. And a very solid, strong 7, and we have 8 newcomers. So very optimistic about the season, but at the same time, there's a little bit of an unknown with our defensive unit, because the first time in my career, it's a completely brand new group. So that will be very interesting for me, because typically we have strong defensive units, and we typically score 1 goal, 1-0, 2-1, and so we're certainly going to have to score a lot more goals, but we definitely have the front 7 that has had a great spring, and certainly what we've seen so far this pre-season, optimistic that we're going to score a lot more goals.
Does it almost keep you up at night? Because I know how you are with defense, and it is totally different for you. What's it been like to kind of piece it together or put it together?
Yeah, well, we knew from the get-go, as soon as the season ended, that was going to be a challenge for us. We thought that we'd put some things in place with recruiting that might be able to fill those gaps, but it's been a little bit of a challenging pre-season. It's still the same challenge for us, but different people have stepped up, and so I think we've got a solid starting 3. With our 2 goalkeepers probably competing for that goalkeeping spot. We're just trying to figure out who's coming in off the bench, who's, that first or second defender that's going to come into the unit. One thing that makes me incredibly happy is Tatum Kroon, who played a little bit of defence last year, but mostly midfield. She's moved back into that centre-back position. She is cool, calm, collected. She has the perfect demeanour to coach the defensive unit, a very young defensive unit. So she's been incredible the last 4.5 days. But we're definitely throwing people into the deep end, and they're swimming pretty hard right now.
You've been very good in the goal for years. What talk about the competition and what the battle is like there?
Yeah, it's been very interesting over the last 3 years, and especially after COVID, when we could get an extra, they could get an extra year. And so we've had young goalkeepers on our squad, and I just hadn't felt like they were ready to step up. So now we're in a situation where we've had goalkeepers for a couple of years, and it's like we were hoping that one would step up this spring, and Emily Young from Texas, she really had a great spring. But we didn't know that was going to happen, and so we were looking for another 5th year, and so we've got Brandolin out of JMU. But seeing them both, compete at practice every single day, and then see Emily Young, how she performed in the spring competition, it's absolutely going to be a battle. I think Emily's improved a lot, but she still doesn't have that experience in those pressured situations. So hoping that Brandolin might be able to provide that leadership and experience behind that young defensive unit.
Coach, you talked about team building coming up. What does that entail, and is that something you change much year to year?
Yeah, we try and do something different every single year. We've gone anywhere from my lake house out at Nolan Lake. This year we're going to Progress Park. I can say that now because we just told them. Usually it's a surprise. It's an opportunity, 1, get off their legs, but 2, just to get to know one another, because it's just really fast and furious in pre-season, and it's all business. So we've got a couple of team building activities that we want to do. Do some cooking and cleaning, and kayaking and paddleboarding, and just have a little bit of fun, but really just take a moment to get to know one another and reflect on the season ahead.
Coach, how do you look for the older girls to kind of lead the younger girls coming in, especially the 5th-year seniors that you have on the team?
Yeah, so we lost a very strong and dominant leadership group from last year. So thankfully, Mia Deschars has come back for her 5th year, and same with Amy Plum. And it's given an opportunity for some of our younger leaders to step up and to have a voice, because perhaps they didn't have that voice last year. So we have a very strong leadership group of Mia Deschars, Amy Plum. Chloe Kazupi has stepped up like just incredible leadership and influence over this team. Izzy Bianco, and then Caroline Puzzi, who's not played a lot, but she really is embracing her role. She's a senior, and that fivesome plus Tatum in the backfield, it's so impressive. The future is bright. It's been great this year, but I feel very confident next year and the years to come.
Coach, you talked about the newcomers. What some newcomers that we might see, in I assume that is a mix of freshmen and a couple of older players.
Yeah, it's been an interesting preseason so far. I've had those very proud moments where I see the sophomores a year later and they have it together. They're pretty collected. They know what's coming. And then I see the freshmen, thrown in the deep end, pretty frazzled, and they're a lot of them very shocked and deer in headlights type thing. So I think the one name that really sticks out for me, and she most likely is going to be playing a lot of minutes in the backfield, is Emily Eaton. Remember that name. I think she's going to have a great career here. She's really stepped it up, and she's probably earned a starting role right now. So that's really exciting for this unit. She's a sponge. She's taking on all of the information. And, she's going to get a lot of action pretty early. So that would be the one name in particular. And I think the rest of the freshmen just need a little bit of time to develop. And, we also have an experienced lineup in the midfield and the striker line. But other names that will probably step up now, if you look at that striker line, it was really young last year, but they are just firing on all cylinders right now. We spent a lot of time in the spring. So younger sister of Amy Plum is Chloe Plum. She is top class. She's international standard. She's really hitting the ball well and scoring some nice goals. Tyler Everslage from local girl Assumption. I mean, we have a lot. Lauren Masters, Riley Wallerton. They're all up on the striker line. I'd say in the midfield, you're going to see Mia, Amy. Izzy Bianco has just come off the Pan American Games, and she's, playing on a whole nother level in the midfield. But I'm going to give shout out to Chloe Kazupi again. She played a role last year, but now that we have two midfielders that graduated, she's really stepped up to a whole nother level. And again, Tatum Kroon in the backfield. So we definitely have a great core. We have a great spine, but our front seven is going to be looking pretty good this year.
Coach, with the expansion in the league, the new teams that you'll be playing, talk a little bit of what you know about them.
Yeah, well, we actually played Stanford in the spring up at Northwestern. Then in the spring, they probably are not up to the level, but at the same time, both Cal and Stanford with their recruiting, it's on another level now. So they're probably in the first couple of years going to be looking for transfers and internationals. And I know looking at Stanford's roster, they've certainly done a nice job looking for internationals. And what you're probably going to see is that they will really start to elevate in the next couple of years and be able to compete, for a potential championship. But we get to go to California now, and I'm really excited that both of those programs have a conference because there aren't that many field hockey programs out on the West Coast. But I think we kick off with Stanford as our first ACC game, and we're going to be locked in on that. But it's great that we got to see them in the spring.
What are your thoughts on the growth of field hockey in Louisville, from the high school level to college? Especially some of the girls on your team are from Assumption and Cal, and kind of what they've built, powerhouses they built here in Kentucky.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. I was here 20 years ago as an assistant coach, and the level wasn't that great, and you perhaps only would get one or two of these ladies playing at the Division I level, but that's on a whole nother level now. I mean, last year when we played Miami of Ohio, and at the tailgate they're all taking pictures, and there's 8 or 9 players from Louisville, Kentucky. You see them going to top Big Ten programs or ACC programs. So it's quite deep right now with the talent, with the clubs that are around in the area. And, for the growth of our sport, I think with the USA team making the Olympics this year, it was so important for us to make the Olympics, and they did a great job. So you see a lot more programs in the middle school, and then LA 28 is around the corner. So I think from grassroots up in this region, and certainly with the USA team making the Olympics, it's critical for our sport to thrive and continue to grow.
Justine, you going into your 14th year, 5 straight NCAAs and the quarterfinals that you've been to. Things have changed in that time, and the expectations for all programs continue to rise around here. What kind of your thoughts on where this program kind of a state of the program as you head into year 14?
Yeah, last year I was incredibly optimistic to compete for a Final Four. We had that team across from the goalkeeping all the way up to the striker line. This year we have some gaps. And also there's a gap. We don't have as much depth as we would have last year. So it can go lots of different ways. What I do think, defensive unit takes a little bit of time to develop and to be what you want it to be. In the last 4 or 5 years, we actually have started really strong, and our record is probably 10-1 or 9-2. That might not be the case this year because we will have growing pains. And our schedule is very, very tough. We're playing some of the top programs very early. So it could go one or two different ways, but what we need to prepare for if it doesn't look like what it's looked like in the last 4 or 5 years. So we will have to adjust and adapt and pivot, and we need to be prepared for that.
Are the expectations, though, not, no matter if there's a gap or whatever, you have set the bar, you've set the expectations that you want to compete, and you need to compete for championships. Absolutely.
We're preparing, competing, and winning championships. That's our mission. We want to make the tournament every year. We want to be in the top 6, top 4 every year. This will be a bit of a challenge. Do we have the team to do it? Absolutely. But we've got to be working together and just ready for any game, and not look too far ahead, but take each game as it comes. And from the get-go, I mean, in 17 days we're playing Maryland, and they're a quality program. So other challenges will be our travel schedule as well, having these Cal and Stanford, and how it's working itself out. We're home a lot in the beginning, which is great for us to just feel perhaps a little bit more comfortable at home. But then in October, some of the critical areas of the season, we travel a lot. We travel to California. We have a lot of split weekends, so things that we've not had before. So, but no, our coaching staff, we want to win. We want to go to the tournament, and same with our leaders as well. So they're leading the team very well right now, and so that's what we're going to do.
Coach, kind of piggybacking off that a little bit, you're entering year 14. From year 1 to 14, have you kind of changed any practice routines or different habits or things like that, or has it kind of stayed consistent?
No, it's definitely evolved. We've adjusted and adapted. One, it kind of depends on who's returning and the youth that's coming into the team, where you're going to spend your focus. I mean, probably the biggest change is, one, how I coach has been different, but two, just the analytics. We use Catapult, and so it's perhaps more scientific, and we really try and stick to certain loads on certain days to make sure that they're peaking at the right end of the season. So, yeah, it's been interesting. The first 4 or 5 days, I don't care that much about loads. I want to kind of grind them a little bit and see who can keep their head on straight.